Oh, baby, you're soaking wet and shivering. Where's your mama? Come here, let me warm you up. 27-year-old Clover Ashton didn't hesitate before shrugging off her jacket and wrapping it around the small boy sitting alone on the park bench in the pouring rain. He was maybe 4 years old, wearing expensive clothes now plastered to a small frame, his face buried in his hands, shoulders shaking with silent sobs. Clover had just finished a brutal 12-hour shift at the hospital, exhausted and grieving the anniversary of her husband's death, but her nursing instincts overrode her own pain. "I'm waiting for my daddy," the boy whispered through chattering teeth. "He's always working. He forgot to pick me up from school again." Clover's heart shattered. She sat beside him, pulling him close despite the rain now soaking through her scrubs. "Well, we'll wait together then. Nobody should be alone when they're sad and cold. What's your name, sweetheart?" "Atlas, and I'm not supposed to talk to strangers, but you called me baby like my mommy used to before she left. Are you a mommy too?" The innocent question broke something in Clover. "I was going to be," she said softly, "but my husband died before our baby was born, and I lost them both. So now I take care of other people's children at the hospital. That's the closest I get to being a mama." What Clover didn't know was that 33-year-old Quillen Merriweather, Billionaire tech CEO and Atlas's father, was currently stuck in an emergency board meeting, his phone silenced, completely unaware that the private school's carpool system had malfunctioned and his son had been left waiting for 2 hours before wandering to the nearby park. Quillen lived in perpetual guilt and exhaustion since his wife abandoned him a year ago, unable to handle the boring reality of motherhood and marriage to a man consumed by his company. He'd been trying desperately to balance being both father and corporate leader, but failing constantly at both, watching his son withdraw further into sadness while his business demanded more of his time and energy.
Clover stayed with Atlas for 40 minutes, telling him stories, making him laugh despite the cold rain, sharing her own sandwich from her bag, treating this stranger's child with the maternal tenderness she'd buried after her losses. When Quillen finally arrived, frantic, soaked, absolutely devastated with guilt, he found his son wrapped in a stranger's jacket, dry-eyed for the first time in hours, actually smiling. "Daddy, this is Miss Clover. She waited with me and told me about brave nights and said I'm not alone even when I feel lonely. She's really nice." Quillen stared at this woman, clearly exhausted, now shivering without her jacket, who'd stayed with his son when she could have simply called authorities. "I don't know how to thank you," he said, voice breaking. "I forgot him. I was in a meeting and I forgot my own son, and he's safe. That's what matters," Clover interrupted gently, handing Atlas back to his father. "But maybe set a phone alarm for pickup times? I know you're busy, but he's little and he needs to know he's your priority." The gentle correction should have felt like judgment, but somehow felt like care. Quillen nodded, throat too tight for words, and carried Atlas to their car. Only later did he realize she'd left before he could get her contact information. What Quillen didn't know was that Clover went home and cried for an hour, not from the cold or exhaustion, but from the brief, bittersweet taste of mothering someone who needed her, the reminder of everything she'd lost, the ache of giving away comfort when she desperately needed it herself. And what Clover didn't know was that Atlas talked about Miss Clover constantly afterward, asking when they'd see her again, insisting his father find the nice lady who called me baby, describing her kindness with the perfect recall of children who've been truly seen. Quillen hired a private investigator, not to intrude, but to thank her properly. When he learned she was a pediatric nurse at Mercy Heights Hospital, that her husband and unborn child had died in a car accident 2 years ago, that she worked double shifts to cover medical debt and distract herself from grief, he felt the weight of her sacrifice that rainy evening. She'd given his son comfort while carrying her own devastating loss. Quillen went to the hospital with Atlas, bringing flowers and a proper thank you. But when they found Clover, she was in the pediatric ward, holding a crying toddler whose parents couldn't visit, singing softly, her face etched with exhaustion, but her voice full of gentleness. "That's her," Atlas whispered excitedly. "That's Miss Clover." When her shift ended, they approached carefully. Atlas ran to her immediately, wrapping small arms around her legs. "You came back! Daddy found you!" Clover's eyes filled seeing them.
"Hi, baby. Are you staying dry these days?" "Because of you," Quillen said quietly. "Because you showed me what I was doing wrong. I've restructured my entire schedule around Atlas. I'm present now, and I wanted to thank you properly. Maybe we could take you to dinner? Not as payment. You can't pay for kindness, but as gratitude from a father who's trying to be better because of you." What followed wasn't romance, but something deeper. Genuine friendship built on shared understanding of loss and resilience. Clover became part of their lives, not as replacement mother, but as chosen family. She showed Quillen how to truly be present with Atlas, not just physically, but emotionally. And they showed her that her capacity to love hadn't died with her husband and baby. It had simply been waiting for safe people to share it with. A year later, Atlas started calling Clover Aunt Clover, and she attended his school events alongside Quillen, filling the maternal void without trying to replace what was lost. And Quillen, watching her laugh with his son, realized that some people are placed in our lives not through planning, but through divine grace. A stranger who stops in the rain, wraps a lonely child in her jacket, and accidentally heals multiple broken hearts by choosing compassion over convenience.
"You know what I think about sometimes?" Clover said one evening, watching Atlas sleep after she'd read him bedtime stories. "That rainy day, I almost walked past him. I was so tired and sad, and stopping meant getting colder and wetter. But something made me sit down. Maybe it was your late wife watching over him. Maybe it was my own lost baby reminding me to mother when I could. But I think we saved each other that day." "You saved us," Quillen corrected gently. "You showed a little boy that strangers could be kind. And you showed his father that success means nothing if you're failing the people who need you most. You called him baby when he'd forgotten what maternal love felt like. That changed everything. Because kindness doesn't calculate. It simply responds when someone needs us, offers warmth when we're barely warm ourselves, mothers children who aren't ours because they need mothering. And sometimes, giving away our jacket in the rain gives us back purpose. Family and proof that love multiplies rather than divides, that caring for others heals us too. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, subscribe, and comment. Let's spread more stories of kindness and hope together.